Greetings, friends, and thanks for joining me. If you follow the right direction, you're aware that it's especially exciting to us when some discovery is made that the minimalists vehemently deny has been related to the biblical narrative. It's as if they lose their minds. Then if the discovery is confirmed, the usual response is just to ignore it, perhaps thinking that it may go away. Well, something I think is fantastic has come to light. In March of this year, 2022, the Associates for Biblical Research made the announcement that a small 1 square inch lead tablet was found on Mount Ebal that possibly contains the oldest Hebrew inscription ever found. Bar Magazine, the premier non-sectarian forum dealing with biblical archaeology, has taken note of it, as has the Jerusalem Post and several other news outlets. The lead was analyzed at Hebrew University and found to date to the 13th to the 14th centuries before Christ. That coincides with the entry of Israel into the Promised Land. There are 40 ancient Hebrew letters in the inscription. That shows that the Hebrews were literate several hundred years earlier than what was previously thought, and it also demonstrates that the Bible could indeed have been written much earlier than the skeptics have said. It's a curse, this inscription. Among other things, it says, "Cursed by the God Yahweh. You will be cursed. Cursed, you will surely die." But it mentions the word cursed 10 times. How many commandments do we have? 10? Do you think that's coincidence? I don't. It would also be the earliest use of the name Yahweh that's ever been found in the Promised Land. An article in the Times of Israel about this inscription also discusses the gematria, which is the assigning of numerical values to the letters of the alphabet. And this, according to this article in the Times of Israel, it's entirely possible that the penman, as was the custom in those ancient days, has left his signature in the composition of the inscription, because the numerical value of it totals up to the numerical value of the name Naphtali, which was one of the tribes assigned to stand on Mount Ebal and listen as a witness as the curses were declared. Again, I ask, you think that's coincidence? If all this proves to be true, it means that we have an artifact that fell from the hand of an eyewitness of such things as those priests walking down to the Jordan River, carrying the Ark of the Covenant, and they step their feet into that water, and suddenly the river rolls back at flood stage. This eyewitness would have been there when the people of Israel marched around the walls of Jericho and gave a great shout, and the walls came tumbling down. And in all probability, he was there just a few days later when Joshua looked up to the sun and commanded it to stand still until the people of God had time to defeat their enemies and win the victory on the field of battle. Now, there are also some theological implications here, because this is a curse. And since it's a curse, there's a certain element in the Christian community that's repulsed by that idea that people could actually be under a curse from God. Their objection usually is that we're in the New Covenant era and that God doesn't curse people and that we're under grace. But the Apostle Paul in Galatians called for a curse on a certain class of people. And that little book of Jude, just before the book of Revelation, speaks of those who pervert the grace of God to lawlessness and immorality, and it says clearly, woe to them. That's a curse. It goes on to say they're twice dead and plucked up by the roots, and that the Lord comes with 10,000s of his angels to execute judgment. That's a curse, folks. And John the Revelator talked about that city of God, and he said that there be no more curse there, which implies that we'll not truly be free of all curses until we arrive there in that city. This small lead tablet is a testimony from 3,500 years ago that God is merciful and gracious and places before men and has for at least 3,500 years the choice between blessing and cursing. And the deciding voice is yours. The prophet said, choose this day who you'll serve. And nothing has happened that I can tell which nullifies that choice, nor has anything happened which can really annihilate the curse other than man's choice to follow God. He sent his son to provide that choice. If you accept that gift of his son, there's no enemy strong enough to keep you bound and under any kind of a curse. The indwelling power of the Holy Spirit is sufficient for you to overcome the flesh, the world, and the devil. Think of this, 3,500 years of his grace. 3,500 years that door's been opened. How much time do you need? You need to turn toward the amount of blessing today. That would be the right direction. Thanks for joining me.